Brock's inspirational speech sets the real tone for this episode.
As of this moment, you are no longer butterflies. Today, you are murderflies!
FlynnsArcade.
Hi, this is FlynnsArcade, and this is my video about the Venture Bros episode Showdown at Cremation Creek Part 2, the finale of Season 2. Let's go. In this action-packed season finale, Phantom Limb attempts to wreck Dr Girlfriend and the Monarch's wedding whilst attempting to seize control of the guild. Luckily, Brock's on hand to lead the henchmen to launch a powerful resistance. Here we've moved on to the second act of the Cremation Creek saga. Part 1 was a character-based drama, but Part 2 is going to be an action-based thriller. And here Brock's inspirational speech sets the real tone for this episode.
But as a swarm, even you guys can be dangerous. Welcome to Big Boy Town. As of this moment, you are no longer butterflies. Today, you are murderflies!
I mean, that's so epic. It's just peak Brock.
One decisive blow, we go for the head, cut it off and watch the body die. We all fly for Phantom Limb's command ship.
And he does such a great job of motivating the henchmen who are really not in a good way before he gives the speech, and adds some much needed hope to this episode because it started off in a real downer. This episode focuses on an epic battle between Phantom Limb's strangers and Brock's fluttering horde. In the book, Jackson Public says that the battle was exciting enough, but it doesn't really compare to some of the episodes we've done since. I'm inclined to agree with him because a few days ago I rewatched the episode The Family That Slays Together Stays Together, and that has some incredible action scenes, so this one doesn't quite live up to those, but it is pretty exciting. This episode definitely has its high spots, and this scene in particular is incredibly powerful.
Oh, it's wicked bad out there, sir. I didn't mean to let you down. These 5 minutes under your command have been the proudest of my career.
What are you waiting for, soldier?
That scene's really sad, and the look of fear on Hank's face is really heartrending. And the scene's also pretty violent because the way he throws the henchman off to get mangled by the blades of the guild wasp, it's really it's definitely a strong one, and it's quite a scene that's always stays with me. This episode also includes Dean's fantasy sequence. Jackson Public describes it as a mashup of every dumb fantasy adventure thing, but especially a never-ending story, which he describes as a guilty pleasure for both him and Doc. The book describes how a lot of people don't realise that the princess is supposed to be Triana, but everyone in the hallucination is a version of somebody that Dean actually knows.
Is this true? Is baby gonna cry? Like a little baby cry, huh?
I'm not a crybaby!
Don't kid yourself there. You're a bit of a pussy. No offense.
I can do this!
I mean, just then we've seen Pete White playing a wizard and Billy playing Giant Boy Detective. His dad's also there, and he's portrayed as a snidey lab rat, which is an interesting window into the way that Dean views his dad. The whole fantasy sequence is an interesting window into Dean's hopes and fears.
Run, orphans! Be free! And have your own room, and maybe not have to live in fear of costume guys trying to kill you all the time! And there are no Yetis freaking out on you, or like putting you on a rocket ship! Run to a place where your father won't make you get in a fight with a Venus flytrap that wants
and his seething resentments. In the book, Jackson Public describes how the fantasy sequence version of the Monarch looks like Zorak, a character from Space Ghost Coast to Coast.
Turn my orphans! Turn me on!
Which he describes as semi-intentional and unintentional Adult Swim cross-pollination. We also get this surreal image of David Bowie's head on a talking cigarette.
Hello, I'm David Bowie.
What the? Make way for the Homo Superior!
Jackson Public says that any time we can get that sort of incredibly weird image into the show, I like it. And this episode ends on a cliffhanger.
Okay. Deep breath. Sheila, you've been rehearsing this.
Monarch.
The cliffhanger is discussed at length in the book, and I'm going to talk about this later in the video. Moving on to the cultural references. So there's a blink and you'll miss it reference to Tron. There's a very nice picture of the various villainous means of transportation in the book. Jackson Public says that most of them are intentionally non-specific. However, the Tron-looking arch thing we definitely gave to that weird purple guy with the 8-bit floating head. I've been waiting patiently for a Tron reference to show up in the Venture Brothers, and I'm excited that it's finally happened. And here we'll see Giant Boy Detective talk about Clifford, the big red dog.
Hey! You're a short giant. Aren't you like 30 feet tall in the books?
Oh, if you think I'm a disappointment, you should see Clifford. He's like the size of one of those little dogs rich ladies drag around. Plus, he's more pink than red. Anyway.
That was a children's book by Norman Bridwell and was made into a film back in 2021, starring Jack Whitehall. And now, onto the jokes. Phantom Limb continues to mangle his metaphors.
Let the rats desert the ship.
It's the big fish rats we're after.
Big fish rats? That type of thing makes him way less terrifying than he actually should be. And here, during the high drama of the ambush, we see Dr. Venture just chilling.
That's my seat, jackass! What is this, huh?
Oh.
What is this? This is for the reception.
Sorry.
Here we see Dr. Venture chilling and enjoying the free food. He's not fazed by the terrifying situation he's found himself in at all. And here we'll see the shocking indictment of the working conditions in the cocoon.
How many of you are suicidal? Wow, a lot. Okay, now, how many of you love change?
Yeah, it's obviously not a very good place to work at, but considering all the danger that they face on a daily basis, there has to be something very wrong there. And here we have a nice callback to the previous episode.
I forgive you, Broxhampton. I was asking for it. I love you, Broxhampton.
It's pretty funny anyway, but I really enjoyed seeing that henchman again who's had his face tattooed over. And here we see the alchemist's reaction to seeing Dean.
Wait here with the orphans. I must free Giant Boy Detective from the Spider Queen.
Hey, that's a scrawny venture kid, and he's crazier than usual.
Dean isn't normally that bad, and he's usually pretty calm and collected, if slightly anxious, but I just like the way that the alchemist says that he's even crazier than usual. He's not normally that crazy. And here we'll see Dr. Orpheus proudly announcing that he's just rescued Dean.
Don't panic! Dean is safe. Safe in the magic hands of the Order of the... Oh!
Ow! Hey, Pop.
Yeah, he's really not that safe in the arms of the Order of the Triad. But it's also quite good that he's kind of back to normal at this point, which is quite a relief. I'm glad he didn't stay in his fancy mode for much longer. If you're enjoying this video, please could you do me a favour and hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And now, on with the video. Brock has some character development in this episode.
Organize a strike team, take them down there and get them ready. We're going after Dr. Girlfriend. Henchmen, listen up!
That's quite a big development for him because Dr. Girlfriend isn't somebody he actually knows or likes, but he still leads the henchmen to form the fluttering horde to rescue her. I think the reasoning behind that is, as we saw back in the Assassin Annie 911 episode, the OSI has a culture of protecting women, and so whilst Dr. Girlfriend isn't an important woman to Brock, he does feel honour bound to rescue her while she's in this terrible situation. This episode is also a satisfying conclusion to the story arc of Brock and Phantom Limb's rivalry, which has been a constant theme throughout Season 2. And here we'll see this remark on the part of Dr. Girlfriend towards Phantom Limb.
You're gonna throw away your whole career just to get back at the Monarch over me. If you showed half as much passion during the... What the f*** do those crepes keep laughing at?
So that was quite a theme throughout Season 2. Dr. Girlfriend fantasised about the Monarch because he was exciting and passionate, whereas she found Phantom Limb quite boring and mundane in comparison. So in this episode, he's actually finally lived up to the expectations that Dr. Girlfriend had for him, but unfortunately for him, it's all too late. And here we'll see Dr. Venture hanging out politely with the Monarch.
Do you pay these people?
Wanna see my escape patrol?
So that's a massive piece of character development. He's gone from being the sworn enemy of Dr. Venture to offering him a place in his escape cocoon. It was a massive step, but it makes complete sense in light of the fact that the Monarch promised Dr. Girlfriend that he'd give up on his vendetta against the Ventures, so it looks like he's making good with his promise. The boys get some pretty big character development in this episode. At the end of season 1, Adult Swim boss Mike Lazo said that the boys were too similar, and so throughout season 2 we've seen them both developing like their own distinct personalities, but they couldn't be more different than they are in this episode. Here we see Hank fully embracing the adventurous lifestyle.
I want to come with! I want to help!
Not this time, Hank's too dangerous.
Aw, come on! Let me at him, Brock! I probably know judo! How many of those guys can make the same boast?
And here we see one of the first examples channeling one of his alter egos, Russian Guyevich.
So, where are you from, son?
I am exchange henchman from Russian supervillain.
Well, you picked a hell of a time to come over. Okay, you're up. See you on the other side, comrade.
Hank first created Russian Guyevich as a means to swerve Sergeant hatred at the wedding, but now he's using the alter ego to confuse Brock. I think this is an interesting moment for Hank because he has learned that he can use his alter egos to help him cope with unpleasant or frightening situations. In stark contrast, Dean is absolutely terrified in this episode.
Venture! Pick up!
Behold, the ring of power. Eons have you waited.
And it's this fear that leads him to completely lose his grip on reality. It's interesting that both boys turn to fantasy to cope with the reality of their lives, but they go about it very differently. Extroverted Hank uses fantasy as a tool to help him deal with the dangerous reality of being a venture, a life that he both loves and fully embraces. Introverted Dean uses fantasy as a means of escapism from a life that he didn't choose and that was thrust upon him. So, onto the rating. I'm going to give this one a 7 out of 10. Mostly it's a great episode, but unfortunately the score is reduced by the use of the cliffhanger ending. It's not really the cliffhanger ending in and of itself, it's what happens in the next episode. Jackson Public says that the cliffhanger was memorably divisive for him and Doc, and also memorably disappointing because it's kind of a big cheat, and is another of my big regrets about the series. As a viewer, I personally wasn't that affected by the break between season 1 and season 2 because I was watching them on Bravo and they just kind of ran on, so I didn't have to wait to find out what had happened to Hank and Dean at the end of season 1. But at the end of season 2, I had to wait quite a long time before seeing the first episode of season 3. And during this time, I started to actually view myself as a massive Venture Brothers fan. And I was really excited to find out what the cliffhanger was going to be. So when I came to watch the first episode of season 3, I actually felt quite disappointed. I actually felt quite disappointed with it not really being a thing at the start of season 3, so has been set up wondering for months and months about what the cliffhanger was going to be, and then there wasn't really a payoff, which was quite sad at the time. I mean, obviously I'm not that devastated in that I've ended up making this video 15 years later, so it wasn't enough to put me off the show, but it was quite troublesome at the time. I actually found it really cathartic to read that comment by Jackson Public because, like I say, it was quite disappointing as a viewer to experience this thing with the season 3 premiere. So at least I know that the creators felt the same way as I did as a viewer. And so because of the use of the problematic cliffhanger, that's why the score for this episode is so low. Otherwise it's a pretty good episode. It's very solid, it's very exciting. I enjoyed the action sequences, and the whole saga of the Cremation Creek was really enjoyable because I like to see the conclusion of the long romance and will they won't they of the Monarch and Dr Girlfriend. So now I'm going to open up the floor to all you lot. Did you like this episode? Were you bothered by the cliffhanger as much as I was? Please let me know. I mean, like I say, it is a pretty good episode and I enjoyed a lot of it. It's just that cliffhanger thing did put a bit of a downer on the episode for me, so I'd be quite curious to see if you felt the same way. If you don't have anything to say, please could you just drop me a spanakopter or an ignore me or a Go Team Venture in the comments, because apparently comments really help the algorithm. If you're new to this channel and you enjoyed this video, please check out my Venture Brothers playlist, because there's plenty more where that came from. I'm going to take a bit of a break now from doing this Venture Brothers series, because I want to use my summer holidays to work on other videos. But rest assured, I will be coming back to it. The Venture Brothers is kind of the building block of this channel, so if you see me doing other types of videos over the next few weeks, don't worry about it, I will return to it at a later date. So that's all from me. If you haven't already, please could you do me a massive favour and hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. So, unless anything comes up in the meantime, I'll see you next Sunday.